Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Shah, call on God. I don't know Yahweh, Bashim Shamalak Yahshua, Bashim Kakadash, stop honors to the apostles and elders, being millstone, peace, citation, hope, elect, Shalom. And the title of this video is going to be Enmity between the serpent and the woman breakdown. And Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. Well, going up to verse 14, it shows you how the Lord, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, what he did was that he said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and thus shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. That's just a future curse. From that time period, that was like a curse that the Most High was prophesying to him, saying that, eventually this will be a judgment, But verse 15, that's for another lesson. I'm not going to go into that. Verse 15 says, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman. And that woman is representing the nation of Israel. And it says, and between thy seed and her seed it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So let's go into the breakdown of that. Because we all know through the Spirit that woman can't bring forth seed. So the nation of Israel is likened unto a woman, and only men could bring seed. So basically it's talking about the inhabitants of the serpent. Well, it's talking about like the seed line, Salakia, not that inhabitants, the seed line of the serpent and the seed line of the nation of Israel. That they're going to have enmity between each other, Jacob and Esau, basically. Because you see, back in the Garden of Eden, you had the sons of God and the sons of the wicked, just like how you had the sons of men as well in the garden. And pretty much like the Edomites that you see today, they were back in the Garden of Eden, but they were known as the sons of the wicked. And the Israelites were considered to be the Adamites, the sons of God. So now I'm going to get into some precepts, and Lord willing, make this lesson edifying to you, hopeful elect out there. So in Psalm 68, verse 21, says, but Yahweh shall wound the head of his enemies, and the hairy scalp of such and one as goeth on still in his trespasses. The Lord said, I will bring again from Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea, that thy foot may be dipped in the blood of thine enemies, and the tongue of thy dogs in the same. And when it's coming to the Most High, he promised that he will wound his enemies, starting with the nation of Edom, and on top of that, the nation within the nation of Edom is Amalek, the ones who funded the slave trade. They were the top of that. And as well as the other nations that afflicted the nation of Israel, the Most High is going to pretty much wound them. And you best believe during World War III, that's going to be a time where these other nations are going to be fighting against each other, but at the same time, they're going to try to fight against the Lord when he comes back to bring death, destruction, and deliverance. And the Lord is going to wound his enemies. And, and to some extent, he's already pretty much doing those things on a small level. But it's pretty much like a small molecular level on how he's doing it, because, you do have some Edomites that are starting to catch some of the curses. And then you have it on top of that, you have those gutter rats in the land of Israel. Some of them are getting like, skin diseases, like skin sunburns, like melanoma. So The Most High is, an avenger for the nation of his people, because some of those Edomites, like, they are catching some of the curses on the side. And then it's like, in the time of Jacob's trouble, that's just going to intensify. And even until the kingdom of heaven is established, you best believe, like, these heathens are going to full blown catch the curses on a whole nother level, you know. But everything starts off small and then intensifies. And in Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 12, it says, because verse 11 is definitely talking about the ICBM missiles, talking about that glitter and spear. But just bringing out the main point, it says, "First, thou didst march through the land in indignation. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for the salvation with thine anointed. Thou woundest the head out of the house of the wicked, by discovering the foundation unto the neck." Salah. And it tells you in the book of Joel how, like, there's going to be a time in the valley of Jehoshaphat where there's going to be war amongst the other nations and fighting against, the nation of Edom, and even Edomites in other countries. They're going to be mostly fighting against America. So you're going to have that whole Egyptian against Egyptian prophecy. It happens even to this day, where you have Edomites fighting against each other, that are against each other, basically because Esau is the house divided. And even Edomites in other countries, they basically are pretty much at odds against each other. So it's basically like ancient Greece and Rome, how they're how they are on a social level. And it's going to intensify to where they're going to eventually be at war with each other, like European countries against America. So whatever allies that Europe is with America, scriptures say that the beast shall hate the what? The whore. And America's that whore. So it's going to become a point in time where during World War III, all of America's allies, as is prophesied, and I believe it's in Jeremiah 50 and 51st chapter, talking about how in Habakkuk, I believe the second chapter, how every nation is going to turn against America, which is Babylon the Great, and they're going to destroy America. And another thing I also want to mention is that in the book of Joel, like, it mentions something along the lines of, like, let the weak say I'm strong. And the weak, at one point, these other nations, they didn't have the same level of nuclear missiles, and pretty much they didn't have the level of artificial intelligence that they're gaining now, with their technology. They're developing their nuclear weaponry and their arsenal. And yeah, and that's pretty much what's going to happen. They're going to eventually use that against the nation of Edom, mainly in the land of America. And when it says thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for the salvation with thine anointed, like, yeah, the Most High is going to send chariots to deliver his people, like talking about his elect, not the whole nation of Israel. It's only the 1/3. During World War III, the nation of the 2/3 of Israel would pretty much be wiped out. But when it says thou woundest the head of the house of the wicked, by discovering the foundation unto the neck, going into how they're basically going to get destroyed by that nuclear missiles, in the land of America, these low-level Edomites that are dwelling in that land in that time period, they're going to be destroyed and wiped out. And as for the other nations of heathens and these other Edomites that are super rich, like the Rothschilds, basically that rule the world in wickedness, the family bloodlines that rule the world, those Edomites that control the central banking systems, that profiting off of people, whether they're people that are paying taxes to them, things of that nature, paying all these interests and these fees, and these Edomites on the upper echelon level, they're profiting off of that. Those are the same Edomites that's going to be the first fruits of slaves in the kingdom to come. So that's what they're going to have to look forward to. And in Job chapter 20, it says, this is how the Most High is going to strike, Esau, which is the enemy. He's going to do it to him while he's lacking, basically unaware. And it says in Job 20, verse 23, when he is about to fill his belly, Yahweh shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So yeah, Esau's going to be basically trying to make moves, and obviously speaking, he's going to make moves on the left-hand side by coming down with that great wrath, because he knows that he have but a short time. And he's going to also go as far as pretty much pushing his NWO agendas, pushing his unrighteous decrees, being that lamb that speaks like a dragon. He's going to be that dragon on a whole nother level, because a dragon is a serpent as well too. It's just like a upgraded serpent with wings that breathes fire, and out of their mouth comes fire. And honestly speaking, fire is something that you don't want to mess with, and it harms you. Just like how Esau, with their laws, they use that to pretty much to oppress and Jake. That's pretty much what they do with their laws. So they speak as a dragon, and they appear to be a lamb because they try to come at you like they're nice people, like they're cool to deal with, like they're understanding. And then it's like you see another side of them, you're like, yeah, these people are fake as all hell. That's why they're called like the devil, because they're deceivers. And the reason why they call the serpent is because you can't trust them, and they're slanderers. And the serpent is not an actual snake. It's just a man with serpent-like tendencies. Like, you will call a serpent, you will call a person a serpent because of how cunning they are, how slick and sly they are, basically how deceitful they are, So that's the bad characteristic of a serpent, that they can't be trusted. They're untrustworthy. That they will stab you right in your back. And on the bright side of the serpent's characteristics, you will see how serpents are very wise in the sense of knowing how to attack and when to attack, knowing how to deceive, basically knowing how to use trickery. And that's why scripture say that the serpent is the most subtle beast of the field. It was more subtle than any beast of the field. And the beast is definitely talking about the other heathen nations, because they're lawless. They didn't understand the laws, statutes, and commandments. So it's not really talking about actual animal beast. And in one of my other previous videos, I mentioned about how the serpent is like one of the wisest animals in the animal kingdom. Because that's what the scriptures say, that this, because when you look into a serpent has a lot of wisdom, that they know how to fight their prey. They could fight against other predators and may have an advantage by trying to choke their other predators out, or their prey. And then after they suffocate their prey, they could, if they have like venomous teeth, they could use that to their advantage. And they even go as far as camouflaging within their environment. So there's good and bad characteristics of a serpent. Alright, so in Joel the 3rd chapter, this is going to how, like, verse 2, It says that how the Lord will gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is Yahweh Shaphat, valley of decision. It says, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land, because we're the Lord's property. You know. Let's go on down. It says, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. So yeah, basically they took all of our resources and stuff, and they took all of our basically our assets and properties and stuff when we went into captivity, you know. And ultimately we're the Lord's property because they took us into captivity, and then they also had us working for free labor, and they had it to where they did that for a decent period of time. And it's like, now in this institutionalized slavery, after we became free from hardcore slavery, but we're still slaves because you still need an ID, you still need a passport everywhere you go, you know. You still need an SSN, which is social security number, and a birth certificate to do certain things or to get certain documents. So we're still slaves. And even if you have a business, you still got to pay what? Taxes. So you're still a slave. It says, let's see, verse 7, behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them. Exactly. Starting with the elect, because that's who he's going to raise, you know, to gather the nation of our people out of the land that we're in captivity. He's going to gather us from wherever we're scattered to, not only in the land of America, but, you know, so that's a future prophecy that we look forward to. And it says, and will return your recompense upon your own head. Exactly. It's going to slaying the head of the enemies, you know, mainly Esau, because he's the wicked. And it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. Exactly, because these other nations are going to basically, like I said earlier in the video, that they're going to get stronger in sense of, and gain more knowledge on the left hand side, and increasing their arsenal and increasing their military might and power through their AI, their technologies, you know, and their nuclear weaponry. You have super soldier projects going on in other countries as well, not only just in America. They got that in North Korea, Russia, even in some African countries as well, and other Asian countries too. And it says, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. And at the same time as the Lord is using Esau to, in these other countries, to destroy the Edomites in America, and at the same time as these other nations are fighting against each other, that and eventually they will fight against Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is going to be doing death and destruction to them in World War III, and he's also going to be doing deliverance, which is delivering the elect to where they're scattered to. And I'm going to bring out a few more precepts before I close out. And then now I want to go into the part where it says it shall bruise his heel. So now the heel is going to be talking about, you know, Jacob, basically. So I'm going to get into the breakdown of that part. It says, Jeremiah 30 verse 12, for thus saith the Lord, thy bruise is incurable and thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. Exactly. All the people that um try to make covenants with, they didn't keep their promises. That's the reason why a lot of jigs shouldn't be voting any damn way, because they say all this before they get in office, and look, they don't do nothing. They don't keep the promises they said. Because honestly speaking, that's why the Lord say to Jake that in Isaiah, I believe it's the 28th chapter, or the 27th chapter, I think, says something about the covenant. Your covenant of death shall be disannulled. Exactly. Because you making a covenant with the heathens, you're making a covenant with death. Okay, the Lord is not dealing with the heathen nations. And let's go on down. It says, "For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy." Exactly, because there was a time when the Most High, he hid his face from us. And it tells you that in Isaiah the 59th chapter, I believe it's the very first verse of that chapter, because the reason why he hid his face from us is because we sinned against him like greatly, and even during the time of captivity, that's what we did as well. Well, even before we went into captivity, during the time of our rulership, we did that, mainly in the Dark Ages. And there was times in the accounts of history that the nation of our people have sinned so much to where, the Most High had to put us in captivity. And then after we got right, he took us out, and he put us right back into captivity again, showing you how we need that new covenant so that we won't ever go off again with the Most High, that we could keep all his laws and statutes, commandments, perfectly. Because that's the reason why we got into captivity anyway, because we transgressed against the laws of the Most High, which is sin. And it says, with the chastisement of a cruel one for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Okay, so that's showing you right there that because we sinned against the Most High, he chastised us and and whipped our asses, just because it looked like he wasn't gonna do it. You know what I mean? Because the scriptures say that the Most High is long suffering. So just because he's not, Ecclesiastes 8 and 11 going into how judgment is not executed speedily, so that's why people will do the wickedness that they do, but they don't understand that it's going to come with a price. The Most High is just building up your tab, so it says, why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee. Exactly. But on the flip side, the Lord did say in verse 16, verse 17, he did promise that those that afflicted us will be afflicted as well, and that how he will restore health unto thee, and that he will heal thee of thy wounds. That's in verse 17. Basically meaning that how he healed us with these wounds is that he's given us the understanding of this truth, the 1/3 mainly. And even in the kingdom of heaven, that's when the whole nation of Israel is going to be healed, because that's when the 2/3 will come back. So you see, so the Most High is still showing that his mercy. The scriptures say that in my wrath I have smote thee, but in my mercy have I shown favor unto thee. Something along those lines. He's talking to the nation of his people. In his wrath, he has smote us by putting us in captivity, yeah. But in his favor, and he had mercy on us, because he still had enough mercy to send his son Yahweh Shai to die on the cross for the nation of his people and shed his blood for the nation of Israel, just so that we could be brought to the new covenant and get everlasting life, as well as the incorruptible crown. And this is the perfect breakdown for the for Jeremiah, no, Slaki, for Genesis chapter 3, going into about the woman with seed. That's talking about the nation of Israel. So pretty much, let me start off with Yeah, I'll just start off with verse 17. It says, "And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of his seed, which keep the commandments of Yahweh and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach." Exactly. And basically that woman represents what? The nation of Israel. You know? Because we are married unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai with that relationship of keeping his customs, you know, which is the law, statutes, commandments. That's pretty much our tradition and our, you know. And that dragon, just basically a serpent, you know, which is Esau, you know. And that's pretty much how it is in the scriptures. It's not really too literal. It's just certain things are metaphors. It's a lot of figurative language, and it's honestly like the mystery, you know, to understand these things. And the Spirit of the Lord has to deal with you for you to understand, you know, things like this as well. And going into the into those sores and afflictions, that definitely was written in the scriptures, like in Deuteronomy, you know, chapter 28, promising, you know, that how we're gonna have those sores. And pretty much going into what's the other scripture, the Lazarus and the rich man, going into that as well, talking about the you know, Lazarus sores, because Lazarus is a representation of the nation of our people. So yeah, man, so our people really are suffering in this captivity, you know. And those sores are really incurable, because these other nations, they didn't let us know who we were as a nation of people. They got us believing that we're outcasts in society. They got us believing that we're nothing more than just the bywords that Esau's given us. And if they try to say that you know, to so-called black people, they say that you belong to the Hamites, you know, like to the Africans, and they don't even look at us like we're a chosen, like we're their people. They call us cotton pickers. So yeah, so we really are oppressed in, you know, in the lands that we've been scattered to, because everywhere that you go, when you meant and you see like outcasts in society, and even though they may look like the heathen nations, they're actually Israelites, you know. Like in India, you got the Dalits, the Untouchables. Basically, wherever Jake is scattered to, they just catching hell, and they still part of the curses, no matter what. And honestly speaking, you know, you can't deny the fact that the Israelites are the ones that's catching the hell and the oppression to this day. You know, but that's pretty much it on that. The lesson's been, you know, broken down, and the point has been made. So with that, I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Adonai Yahweh, Bashem Shamalak, Elishai, Bashem Fakadash, to honor to the apostles and elders, Millstone, peace, and teaching, hope for elect. Yahweh Shem Shabbat Bakashah, Shalak Rayam, Arawam, Yam Waka, Yam Wa, Abba, Shalom.